Hi, it's Dre Griggs with Obsidian Wisdom. Today we discuss 10 saving strategies for a wealthy retirement. When it comes to your retirement, there are two things that every single one of us wants to know. The first and greatest fear that we all have is, are we going to run out of money? Do I have enough money to live out my retirement? We'll have to go back to work. We'll have to cut back on my lifestyle. What am I going to have to do? How much money do I need? How do I turn this bag of money into an income that I can have the rest of my life? And the second thing that most people worry about is, am I going to be able to live my lifestyle? Am I going to be able to chase some of my dreams? For many of you, this will be the first time that you are in control of all of your time, where you don't have to go to work unless you want to. We don't have to do that stuff that we have to do as parents and our responsibilities. Could we just drop everything and go if we wanted to go? If we have healthcare scares, are we going to be able to afford to pay for those? These are all things that most of us are trying to figure out when it comes to retirement. And I'm going to tell you the 10 things that you have to know to be able to answer these questions confidently. These retirement years are going to be some of the best years of your life because you're in control of your time and you'll be able to spend it with the people that you care about doing the things that you love most. Number one on the list is you need to analyze your current savings and spending habits. Anytime you meet with a financial professional, I don't care what industry they're in, they're always going to start with how much money do we have coming in? How much money do we have going out? Now, this is something that you will hear people, they'll pretend that, oh, you don't have to keep track of anything. Oh, that's the boring stuff. Nobody needs to have a budget. Nobody needs to know where their money's going each month. And it sounds great, right? It really does. It's a great marketing tactic. But if you ever met with a financial professional, wouldn't you be slightly surprised if they didn't ask you how much money was coming in, how much money was going out? Wouldn't you be a little bit like, well, how are they going to make a recommendation if they don't know how much money I have and where the money's going? And I feel that way for you as well. How do you know if you're going to run out of money if you don't even know where the money is going? You have to start by keeping track of where the money comes each month and where the money goes each month. I promise you, this is going to be the thing that most people mess up because each of us has a blind spot. And what I mean is, money is a little bit of an emotional thing. So when we spend our money, we have a certain feeling. There's things that we spend our money on that makes us feel good. There's other things we spend our money on that makes us feel a little bit ashamed. And if you allow yourself to spend your money on the things that make you feel good, whatever it is, and it could be the most amazing thing. It could be for like little Johnny, and little Johnny's amazing. But if you don't know how much money is being spent on little Johnny, you know it's going to bite you in the butt. So it's important for you to keep track of where your money's going each month because obviously from a financial standpoint, but even from an emotional standpoint, what are the things that you spend your money on that helps you feel good? What are some of the things that you spend your money on that don't feel that good? And maybe we can have it where you spend more of your money on things that help you feel good and less of our money on things that we immediately regret. Number two is we need to set specific saving goals. Once you know how much money you have coming in and how much you have going out, our goal is to be able to get somewhere around 10 to 20% of our money being allocated towards our financial freedom, towards our retirement plan, towards all of the amazing experiences that you want to create. There's three relationships that we have with money, and you guys hear me talk about them all the time. You either spend less than what you make, you spend all that you make, or you spend more than what you make. And no matter how we slice that pie, if you spend more than what you make, you may say, well, I'm not making enough. So as soon as I get a raise, I'm going to be able to match whatever my budget is. But I have found that if your relationship with money is you spend more than what you make, then believe you me, as you get a raise, you're still going to continue spending more than what you make. Because a part of our relationship with money is once we hit whatever that ceiling is, we should immediately make some sort of adjustment. But if you don't actually have that relationship where you don't have that feedback loop where you spend all of your money and then you'll borrow money or you'll put it on a card or take out debt, well, then you don't actually have the relationship where it's going to be like, oh, okay, I hit the ceiling. I need to cut back. And because most people don't understand that, they end up spending more and more. And that's why about 50% of people who make six figures every year are also living paycheck to paycheck, with the 70% of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck. The goal is for us to be able to set savings amounts. Now, you want to have a portion that goes towards an emergency fund, a portion that goes in your retirement plan, and we want to talk about your pre-tax and after-tax. And I'll put a link to another video where I talk about allocating your money. But you want to have about 20% of your money that goes towards these different funds. Then we can say, okay, I'm going to live off of 70%. But if you have debt, then maybe you're saying, you know what, Dre, I'm going to put 10% towards my debt, 20% towards my investments, and then I'll live off of 60%. Others of you, the debt feels crushing. And so as a result, you have to allocate more. And again, because our relationship with money is very emotional. So for some people, it makes more sense for you to allocate 20, 30% towards getting out of debt. And then maybe we only allocate 5 or 10% towards your emergency fund or your retirement fund. It really depends a lot on the specific relationship that you have with money, but you need to have a number set. You need to have a goal of how much you want to be able to save each month, each year out of your paycheck that goes towards your financial freedom and a successful retirement so that we can build that retirement income so that you know that you're not going to run out of money. Number three on our list is once you have your savings goal set, you then need to say, okay, well, what do my expenses need to be for me to be able to achieve that goal? Many times we all set a goal. Think of if we wanted to say, I'm going to lose like 10 pounds. Oftentimes, one of the first steps you have to do is you got to get rid of the junk food. And that's the same way when it comes to your spending. Whenever you set the goal of how much you want to have as far as your savings that you invest each month, well, immediately we have to say, well, let's cut out the junk food. Where are we spending this money? Where are we wasting it so that we can now allocate that money towards our investments? The reason that we often start with the goals is because once you actually have a goal, we have something that can pull us through the struggle. And what I mean is, a lot of the times, if you don't have a clear goal set, when a good idea comes, or a good idea will say, you're going to say, well, I don't really have anything else to do with this money. So I'm just going to go ahead and spend it on that thing, whatever it was that I was invited to, a concert, a trip, a conference, whatever it is. I'm going to go do that because I don't really have anything else to do with my money. But when you have a specific goal set, now you have something to compare it against, where now you're saying, okay, is it really worth going to this conference? Because I'm gonna have to take that money out of my financial freedom retirement income fund. I don't know. That's really important for me. I really do want to be able to retire. But for many people, because you don't actually have that goal set, you don't really have anything to compare it against. So you're doing what you believe will bring you happiness, but you actually are sacrificing your happiness. The freedom to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, supporting the things that you love. That is what drives most of our happiness, where we are able to say, my money matches my values. That leads us into step four, where you have to put the systems in place. We need to automatically have our money go into our investment funds. If you're investing in after tax investments, and those could be you have it at like a brokerage fund or something like that, then you may have to have the money come out of your bank account every single time your check comes in. And then that money immediately goes into your investment funds. If you have the money that you can pull out of your 401k, well, then you may be able to set the allocations up with your employer. But when it comes to long term success, as much automation as you can put in place, the more likely you are to succeed, the less you have to think about it. You just start getting used to it. If you know every time your check comes in, the very first thing that gets paid out is the money that you pay yourself, it just feels a little bit better. You actually, without feeling much of the pain, are able to spend less money because the money was never there in your hands. And for most people, when you have an allocation automatically set up and the money goes right in, you have the portfolio created so you know exactly where the money needs to go, which funds that you're going to be able to purchase. Again, it just makes it very simple. And when it comes to achieving things, you want as little friction as possible. Keep it as simple as you can to be able to create the wealth. When it comes to 70% of people living paycheck to paycheck, the reason is the majority of people pay their bills first and then they invest what's left. Wealthy people invest first and then they pay their bills with what's left. And that isn't the sexiest approach, of course, but when it comes to long-term success, it helps you to create the habits that are necessary for you to be able to achieve financial freedom and for you to be able to build the wealth that you need to retire once and for all. Number five is you want to be able to explore some high yield savings accounts. In 2023, it's a beautiful time where you're able to get somewhere between 4 to 6% on some very nice savings accounts. And you've seen them where Apple has one, I think it was like 4.5%. I think I saw like iShares or iBond has another one at like 5%, where this is money that's generally seen as very safe. And now, of course, there's risk when it comes to all investment, but just high level, you don't have the risk of like the stock market and your investments going to zero. You have the risk of interest rates going higher, and then it makes your bonds less sexy when you try to sell them later. And I have another video where I go into some of that a little bit more in detail, so you don't have to really worry about it here. But the long story short is if I'm able to get 5% today on a bond, but let's say next year I can get 7% on a bond. If you were in the market, which would you rather buy? Would you rather buy a 7% bond or would you rather buy a 5% bond? And I think for most of us, we would all choose the 7% bond, right? All things being equal. Well, that's what ends up happening. If the interest rates keep going up and it raises the yields on some of these bonds, it makes it very hard for you to be able to sell a bond from a previous market at a lower interest rate. And so that is really the main risk that you have. Naturally, you also have the risk of defaulting. And again, the idea is a bond is buying someone's debt. So whether you're buying treasuries like the government's debt or whether you're buying a corporation's debt, it depends on the likelihood of that company or that government paying back their debt. As long as they pay back the debt and they're in business, you're in business. But if you buy debt of a corporation that goes bankrupt, well, they may or may not pay you. Just like any bankruptcy proceedings, we don't know if you have to actually pay back all your creditors. Number six is you need to monitor and adjust your investments. I know we like the idea of buy and hold forever, and I can give you some high level opportunities to be able to buy and hold, but it doesn't change that maybe your expenses change, maybe something happened, maybe you retired earlier than you thought, it changes the numbers a little bit. Maybe you had like another kid and you weren't quite expecting that. I mean, there's so many things that go on that change in our environment, and we want to revisit our plans periodically to make sure it's actually capturing the things that we're doing. There's a possibility your lifestyle decreased because when you first made your plan, you were living La Vida Loca, and now you're a simpler person, so you're living a little simpler life. And you may have already achieved the goal because of the adjustment that we would make to your retirement lifestyle. The opposite can also be true, where you built a simple plan, but you decided you wanted to travel and see the whole world and you wanted to go somewhere new every 6 months. Well, we have to make that adjustment to your plan because we no longer know if the amount of saving that we're doing is going to achieve the lifestyle that you want. Remember at the beginning, we said there's two things that we want. One is we want to make sure we don't run out of money. And two is we want to make sure that you can live the lifestyle that you want with who you want, doing what you want, where you want, supporting the things that you believe in. As those things change, we need to be able to revisit the plan and see how we're doing. Maybe there was a recession, so we have to invest a little bit more than we thought. Maybe there's an economic boom and we can invest less than we thought. There's so many things that are changing in the environment, either inside of our household or around us, that it's always good to revisit your plan, see how everything is going, have a set strategy in place so that you don't become one of those people that buy high when everybody's saying this is the best thing since sliced bread, but then it starts dipping and you weren't really sure why you bought it in the first place, so you end up selling low. By having that set strategy that you put in place, it allows you to be able to stick to that strategy, which will ultimately have you buying low and selling high, which is a much more comfortable and a beautiful scenario for you to be able to achieve that wealthy retirement goal that you have set for yourself. Number seven is you have to challenge yourself to increase your savings rate over time. Whether we start at 5%, 10%, 20%, or 25%, as we make adjustments to our spending, or we pay off debt, or we get a raise, or our kids grow and they leave the house, there are so many opportunities that we have to increase our investments in our freedom and retirement fund. I challenge you to take advantage of those opportunities. Don't just spend the money where we have what we call an income creep, where every time you get a raise, you just spend a little bit more, where you get a slightly nicer car, or you get a slightly nicer suit and clothes. I know that we feel like that's what we want to do, but believe you me, when it comes to your happiness, it's not in the stuff, it's in the experiences. In fact, I'm so confident about this. When you really think about it, when you die, the only thing that you actually get to take with you is your memories. It's the experiences that you created. Everything else is rented. We leave it to our kids if we set everything up nicely. They do right by it, but then they have to leave it to their kids. We don't get to take the stuff with us, but you get to take the experiences and the memories and the laughter with you. So you want to be able to focus on the things that actually last forever. That's why it's very important that you increase your savings rate over time because you're going to be able to create these wonderful experiences. You're going to be able to support the causes you believe in. You're going to be able to invest in these opportunities when they show up, and it's going to bring a smile to your face. So I challenge you like I challenge my kids. The goal is always to do your best. It does not really matter how we're doing compared to anyone else in the world. It just matters how we're doing compared to ourselves. And you may have heard me, but I've told the story when I ran track in middle school. They would always say you race the clock, right? Like you don't race the person next to you, you always race the clock. You're trying to get a personal best for yourself because the way track works is you could be on the slowest track and be in first place and not qualify for state. You can be on the fastest track and be in fourth place and still qualify for state. It always comes down to the time, how fast you are moving. And so you don't want to be discouraged comparing yourself to other people. You don't want to be encouraged comparing yourself to other people. You always race the clock. You always race against your personal best. And that's what I'm asking you. If you're saving 50% of your salary, great. But if you're able to go up to 55%, then you should. If you're saving 5% of your salary, fantastic. But if you're able to go up to 10%, then you should. You're always racing the clock, your own personal best. So I challenge you to do that. Number 8 on our list is you got to stay accountable to somebody other than yourself. It's one of those weird things where we can rationalize anything, where if we think hard enough about it, we can explain 5 ways to Sunday why something was wrong, why it's okay to do it this one time. But if you hold yourself accountable with someone else, whether you have your own financial advisor, whether you have your own CPA, whether you tell a close friend that you're comfortable sharing the numbers with, you need to tell somebody where you hold each other accountable. There's a reason that the most wealthy and successful people don't manage their money, and it's not because they're idiots that are getting swindled by a financial advisor. The truth is, whatever you're doing to make your money, that's what your craft is. That's what you spend your time doing. And when it comes to your money, for a lot of people, it makes sense to pay someone who spends their time on that, where that's their craft and that's what they're doing. Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean that every financial advisor is good, right? If the financial advisor is not bringing any value, then you should find a financial advisor that is bringing value. You shouldn't say that, well, none of them are worth anything. I don't think a financial planner could do anything for me because there is value that good ones are adding. And sometimes it's no different than someone who has a personal trainer. Do they have a personal trainer because they don't know how to work out? Well, no. I think most people know how to work out. We have a personal trainer because they hold us accountable. They make sure that we do what we wanted to do, even when we don't want to do it. And a lot of times that's what your financial planner is. We put a plan together, we agreed on the plan, you sign on the dotted line, and then I'm going to hold you to that plan. And if we ever deter from that plan, I'm going to be the one that you meet with, and you have to explain to your future self, because that's what I'm going to encourage you to do. Hey, this is what you said you were doing for your future self, and this is what we're doing right now. You want to be able to have that conversation with your future self, right? You're not doing it for me, you're doing it for you. I'm simply the one that helps you administer your plan. Just like someone who's running or working out, you're not doing it for the trainer. And so I encourage you, whether it's someone professionally or whether it's a really close friend or family member, you want to have someone that helps hold you accountable. Someone you have to share your numbers with and explain why you're off track when you're off track, and come up with a plan of how we're going to get back on track as quickly and efficiently as possible. Number 9 on our list is researching some additional saving strategies. Now, this could be as simple as finding coupons and saving money. This could be as grandiose as having maybe 5% of portfolio that just goes towards swinging for the fences, just goes for home runs, where you heard this amazing metaverse stock that's coming out, or you knew that marijuana was going to be legalized across the nation. But because it is speculation, which is slightly gambling, you don't want to put too much of your money in it. But we'll just put maybe like 5% or less in that. Like that's going to be my gambling fund. That's going to be the opportunities when I see them. I'm going to go for it. Where there's a new government regulation, like those opportunity funds that were created like 15 years ago, where you were able to build certain real estate and the government was subsidizing it significantly. These opportunities do come through government regulation or changes in industry. Like we're going through the AI swing right now. There are certain things where you'll say, okay, I believe I know where this is going to go. So I'm going to invest a portion of my money, a very small portion, but a portion nonetheless. Now, for other people who's like, you know what, Dre, that's too much for me. I'd be up all night. That would freak me out. Even though it's a small percentage of my portfolio, I would be very uncomfortable doing that. That's totally fine. Obviously, it's your plan, so it's got to make sense for you. In those situations, then you want to find yourself other saving strategies. For those that may make more sense for you to find ways to cut on the expenses, right? There's always 3 levers. We can make more, or we can spend less, or we can work a little bit longer, right? Those are normally the 3 levers that we could do to make our retirement plan work with the numbers that we have. And so whether you cut down on your spending, whether you find some alternatives, maybe you find out that going to like a Costco or a Sam's or a BJ's or something like that ends up being a very successful strategy because you're able to save a certain amount of money every single month on your groceries, and you're able to allocate that additional money towards your debt to get out of debt quicker, or maybe you're able to restructure some of your credit cards for a lower interest rate. There's so many things that you can do as far as increasing your savings, and you want to find ones that work for you, whether it's investing in home runs, whether it's restructuring your debt, or whether it's working a little bit longer. You always want to be chipping away at it. You want to be getting better, improving yourself, becoming more efficient and effective with your financial strategies, because things are always changing. And the 10th and final saving strategy for a wealthy retirement is you got to reward yourself. You guys hear me literally say this all the time. You have to help yourself feel good about saving your money, right? That's where we mess things up, is because we have that immediate satisfaction of buying something where it feels really good in the moment. In savings is like a future reward where it's like, well, dang, I just kind of put that money away and I don't really know what's going to happen. It's almost like putting gas in your car, right? You put gas in your car, you're like, I don't really feel that great. I mean, yeah, the little meter went up, and yeah, my car is not going to like get stuck in the middle of the road, but you don't really feel as amazing as like buying something, which is why we all spend our money on the immediate thing. So how do you fix that? You have to find a way to reward yourself for doing successful long-term investing. And the way I can describe it to you is I use my kids as an example. So to get all my kids to read, right, the numbers say, look, if your kids read, they're going to be phenomenal. Life is so much easier for them. That's the long-term benefit. But what can I give my kids in the short term to have them excited to read? And what we did is we created like this little reading log that they could color in. And our kids like coloring. So it basically has like each month, and there's like 20 little things, whatever the month is. It could be apple, or it could be a butterfly. It could be anything, but there's 20 of them. And the kids will color it in every time they read a certain amount. And it depends on the kid. So my youngest could read 15 minutes to color it in. My oldest would read for an hour to color it in. So once we achieve whatever the numbers are, we color in our reading log for the day, which gives them that immediate good feeling. We all know that checking things off a list feels kind of nice. It helps us to feel like we accomplished something. So they get that immediate reward. If they achieve the monthly goal of circling in or coloring in all 20 of the reading log, well, now we go to their favorite ice cream shop, which for us is Sweet Frogs. We go there for yogurt. So once a month, we go to Sweet Frogs for yogurt. And that's how we reward them in the medium term. So once a month, they're able to get this amazing yogurt with all the toppings and sugar that they could want. And I know you're not supposed to reward your kids with sugar, believe you me, but that's what we did and it works for them. So all of our kids are very excited now. They get the color in the reading log immediately, every single time. Then once a month, they get the little bit larger reward. And then they actually get the long-term reward where I can remind them in a year or two. And I'm like, hey, have you noticed that your reading's improved? Have you noticed how much you like reading and the actual reward of reading? But we had to get the small, medium, and large rewards to get to that point in time. And it's the same for you with being financially responsible. Reward yourself every time that you invest, every single month that you invest. Reward yourself in some way so you can keep doing it. First of all, let me just say thank you for watching the video. I really do appreciate you guys' time. You really could have been watching anything with anyone who chose to be here with me, and I don't take that for granted. If you found value in this video, I ask for you to like and subscribe so you can continue receiving valuable insights on how to solve generational wealth through strategic retirement planning. Until next time, stay safe and enjoy life.